Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taormina.
Welcome to OAA Now. I am Sammy Taormina, the blogger of the Dragon's Den, and also on Between Taorminas, which is also on ON TV. I'd like to thank ON TV for letting me use the studio. Today, we're going to talk about two big things here, and of course, we got a huge, football season, of course, is a week away heading into the year. Of course, there's been a lot of people very excited. The draft, I will unleash my projections next week, so stay tuned to that, fans. And also, but we do have some football news in the business, especially let's go to Southfield. Of course, Southfield just added in a transfer, coming in with Jamal Antoine. Of course, I hyped up Jamal Antoine a couple weeks ago, thinking he was going to play for Pontiac, but he ended up deciding not to go play his senior year at Pontiac, and instead he's going to go play at Southfield. It's a huge coup for Gary Teasley and his Blue Jays, and especially now it gives Southfield a very, very interesting cornerback combination, especially strong safety combinations as well. Looking at that secondary, I mean, you got Jamal Antoine there at corner. You're going to have Deere Johnson, another corner, and also you got Javante Ginwright. Of course, you got three of those four guys that are going to go to Division I schools. Of course, Antoine going to Central Michigan, Buford going to Minnesota, and Ginwright going to Western Michigan. I think it's a huge coup for Southfield to get Antoine, especially what he brings. He's a very good special teams guy. He can also do some damage heading into the year, I think, for Southfield. And I think, when you look at that matchup week one, I kind of look at that game when they have with Orchard Lake St. Mary's. It's a very unique matchup where they play. Southfield's a very interesting team. Of course, their motto this year is unfinished business. As I mentioned, of course, this is a team, Antoine, he's also a good kickoff returner as well. He's also a big threat there. And of course, putting him in that corner and that backfield, I think when you look at Southfield, very dangerous team coming into the year. I mean, Southfield, if they want to win, if they want to repeat, you got to go through Southfield. The schedule is very favorable for the Blue Jays. Of course, they play Orchard Lake St. Mary's, as I mentioned earlier, at Wayne State. But they got some interesting matchups. When you look at the white with Southfield, they got to play. They're at Adams week 2, which is going to be a tough matchup for them. But also, and this is a team, of course, Rochester Adams, they don't like to throw a lot. They run that veer option. And then, of course, you got home games. You got home dates with Harrison. You got home dates with you got home dates. I think. Let's see here. Does Oak Park come there, or is Southfield at Oak Park is home with Southfield. So it's a very manageable schedule. I think when you look at those matches with Southfield. Blue Jays, huge addition there, bringing in Antoine. I think he's going to be a huge impact for this team. But also when you look at it here, the huge addition of Antoine is going to not only help the Blue Jays, but, this is going to probably make them into another strong contender heading into the year. Of course, Southfield was ranked number 9 in the Dragon's Den poll coming into the year. I still think, when I look at this, I'm concerned for them with their line up front. I think that Southfield could struggle there, especially when it comes to bringing pressure. I think losing Malik McDonald is going to hurt Southfield, and also Lawrence Marshall also there. But also with Southfield, their defense, their defense is loaded. I'm curious to see how they do, especially in that match week one with Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Of course, Orchard Lake St. Mary's did take a hit themselves. They lost Keon Hayes. Of course, he committed to Southern California. He decided to go to a prep school in California instead of playing his senior year at Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and I think it's a huge loss for them. And also, I think it could be an impact game for that match week 1 at Wayne State, and also that it could be a very interesting matchup there. But let's look at it from Southfield's point of view. This is a huge addition for them. I think Antoine's going to be huge in that market, especially when it comes to kick returning. He could play some offense. He definitely is going to be on defense this year. Of course, especially with Southfield, and they run a 3-3-5 scheme. So that'll be a very unique matchup there for Southfield. But let's also look at the team that also suffers from this, and that's Pontiac. Pontiac, of course, we know that they've had family financial issues. They've had some issues, like in the years past. Of course, they've really been struggling since Brad Zuby left there, and also the financial uncertainties over there at Pontiac. I mean, it's unfortunate there, but Pontiac, of course, they're a team. They only got 8 games this year on the schedule. They play North Farmington week 1, and that's unfortunate for them because if they can get another game, I think that's a huge addition for that, and I think that they will get a huge game for them. Head coach John Lloyd, of course, the new coach there replacing Damian Redford, said during media day that this team has worked really hard in the offseason. Of course, their strength is up front, but the question is their athleticism. They got some guys, Pontiac, of course, they're going to be relying on a couple guys that they could struggle. Of course, North Farmington for Pontiac is a very tough matchup week 1 for the Phoenix, especially having to go into the year. Of course, North Farmington known for their they got a good defense back, but also Pontiac, of course, let's not forget this was a team that lost last year to Southfield Lathrop in week 1. Of course, Pontiac will have a chance to get revenge in that matchup when they play Southfield Lathrop week 7, October 10th, when Southfield Lathrop goes to Wisner Stadium to play the Phoenix. But back on the impact here of this of Division 2, a lot of people say Southfield. With the addition of Antoine, I think that it's going to make them into a huge player. It will make them definitely a huge player. I know one poll, of course, Jeff Corn of the D-Zone, he said, quote, that I looked at his rankings yesterday. He said that Southfield was ranked number 5 in there. And, I understand that, it's interesting at all. I mean, it's interesting. Southfield, yeah, they got a very good corners. They got very good receivers, yes. Early in the year, the reason why I released my rankings before Corin did, but Southfield legitimate. I think they're a legit 5 also with the addition of Antoine, but also I can see them being a 9 because if you look at Southfield, this team, they did lose a lot. They lost a lot of talent. The White's not an easy league to do, and of course if they lose week 1 to Orchard Lake St. Mary's, it's going to be a very, very tough climb, I think, for Southfield when you look at the Jays. And then of course, when you look at Southfield analyzing the schedule there for the Blue Jays, of course, they got Adams week 2, which is going to be a very tough matchup, of course. I'll bet you, of course, Tony Petrino's been wanting a shot at Southfield after what happened last year with the controversy surrounding that game. And they also got to play at C-Home. That's a rematch game. Of course, that was a 17-16 loss for Southfield in the playoffs over there in Birmingham. And I know the Maples Nest will be ready to go for that one, especially, and that game could have playoff implications in there for both those teams. And then, of course, Southfield also got to play Farmington Hills Harrison at home as well. For Harrison, that's a huge game. I think it's a huge game of athleticism there. Also, it'll be very unique, especially because in that series, oddly enough, the road team has won 4 of the last 5 meetings in that one. And then, of course, they play Oak Park. Southfield, very interesting matchup there with Oak Park because you got to look at that game with the Knights. It's a rivalry game. Of course, Oak Park's got John Kelly. Of course, I'm not sure what Southfield's going to have up front, especially in that matchup. I don't think they'll have an answer for Kelly up front, but also, especially when you have to play that 3-3-5, it's not an easy thing, especially if you're sacrificing a lot of line for speed, and that could be a very tough matchup, I think, for Southfield in that one, despite the fact that those matches are at home, but except the Adams game, Southfield's got a good chance, I think, to do some damage in the playoffs, but this is a matchup, but they gotta get there first, and it starts week 1 with Orchard Lake St. Mary's. There's no doubt about that. When you look at the impact of what Jamal Antoine's going to bring, he's a very durable player. He can play anywhere. He's a physical player. This guy here can be a very, very good asset for this team, especially for Gary Teasley. Of course, he can also help Kanye Harris, who, of course, is their stud quarterback, who takes the reins over. Of course, Southfield had a 2-quarterback system last year, resulting in, of course, a huge loss for last year to a very, very good C-Home team to a year ago. But you look at the White, I think Southfield, they got a good chance, I think, to win the White. but they got to go through. They got to at least win at least 5 of those games, I think, and they got to win starting week 1 with Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Then they got to win the Adams game. They have to win. They have to win. I can give them Royal Oak. I can give them. I can give North Farmington. I can give them Rochester. That's 3 wins right there. But they got to win the rest of those games, I think, if Southfield wants to repeat this year. And, of course, their motto this year, of course, unfinished business. And they feel like they have something to prove, and I think they could do some damage this year, but we'll see what happens there. And then, of course, let's look at Pontiac. Unfortunately for the Phoenix, it's a huge loss for them. When you look at Pontiac, I mean, this is a team, in my opinion, that they've been struggling. They've been going through a lot of problems. They got a new coach in Eric Lloyd. He takes over a program. John Lloyd, my bad. He takes over a program that was 0-9 last year, moving down 2 divisions. But Pontiac, there's some hope for this Phoenix team because, of course, in the first year they merged the school between Pontiac Northern and Pontiac Central. They actually ended up becoming they were 7-2 team, made the playoffs. Of course, they were in Division 1. Unfortunately for them, they lost in that year to Utica Eisenhower, and I think that was Greg Manfield's first season coaching Pontiac, and then, of course, he left and then entered Brad Zuby. Of course, Brad Zuby had a struggling year in 2010, but also in 2011 he made the playoffs before he departed to go to Stony Creek. So Pontiac could be in line for a very, very interesting season. I can see Pontiac, possibly going winless, but I can also see Pontiac winning some games. I think they got a shot against North Farmington. I think they got a shot against they got a shot against Hazel Park. They got a shot against Ferndale. If they play well, I think Pontiac could win some games. But like I said, I think the uncertainty of the program situation, uncertainty of the financial situation is going on over there at Pontiac. I think that when you look at it with Pontiac, I think it's going to be a very, very challenging year for them, especially playing in the blue. You're going to be playing Avondale. You're going to be playing Pontiac. You're going to be playing Groves. You're going to be playing Farmington, Southfield, Lathrop. It could be a very tough year over there at Pontiac again. So like I said, we'll see what happens. Of course, a lot of excitement brewing up. Of course, tomorrow, you got scrimmages coming up. Harrison, I know, has got one. I know for sure. Of course, Lake Orion's at Howell tomorrow. Lake Orion's at Howell. Of course, Oxford's got their own scrimmage also. So, it's something that these teams are getting ready for. Weather forecast, I know it's not looking good for those matches. I've been hearing those scrimmages, showers and thunderstorms. I know right now, currently Oakland County, of course, right now, I would say they're under flood watch. So, be aware of flooding. It could happen again, and of course we could get some thunderstorms coming back here today, here. So that could be something that could impact your practice times, so we'll see what happens there. But back to a story here, of course, with the big one here with Southfield, I just think that the Blue Jays have they're going to be all right, I think, with the addition of Antoine. To a loaded backfield. This is a huge thing for Southfield because now, just imagine if Antoine would have transferred from Pontiac to Southfield last year, then that team would have just, in my opinion, if he would have done that instead of last year instead of this year, just imagine how deadly Southfield would have been last year. That would have been just insane, with that Blue Jay team. It would have made and when I look at the white, there's not a lot of teams that like to throw the ball. Probably Harrison probably likes to throw it a lot. I know Oak Park's got a very good quarterback receiver combination. But those two, but Oak Park and Adams, they're virtually gonna be known this year for their running attack. And then Harrison may be the best team that Southfield sees that probably will throw the ball a lot and probably will test the 3-3-5 defense that could give them. But when I look at the impact that Antoine brings, he's going to bring a huge impact, especially with that team this year, especially how athletic they are and how quick they are. Southfield usually is known for their speed, but we'll see what happens when they play at Wayne State, week 1. Of course, my projections on that will be unleashed next week. of course, who I like in there. We'll see what happens. And Pontiac, of course, this hurts them a lot because when you look at Pontiac, it's another big blow to a struggling city, to a struggling town, especially to a struggling school, especially. They still got some pieces in Chris Mullen and Marvin Winston that they're going to rely on for Pontiac, but right now it's looking like more and more like the coverage right now. The cupboard right now looks like the numbers could be down again this year down there, and it could be a really, really tough time at Pontiac. I mean, a lot of people have ranked them 24, last place. I know the Dragons Den, of course, we ranked them 24 start the year. And there's nowhere to go but up. And I think Pontiac will embrace the challenge. And also, if they can embrace the challenge, Pontiac, I think they're going to probably do well this year, especially heading into 2014, But like I said, keep an eye on the situation over there at Pontiac. If they struggle financially, we'll see what, and they've been losing kids. I know I talked to their best middle schooler last season, of course, who won the Shoppa County meet. He ended up going to Birmingham Brother Rice, you know what I mean? Instead of Pontiac, and, it's unfortunate to see these kids leave Pontiac. Pontiac, of course, and historically, they've always been a good school. They've always been a basketball power, you know what I mean? When they had the old Pontiac Central Classics in basketball, and boys basketball, it was as great as it was, and now to see them unfortunately go downhill, it has a huge impact on this team, and unfortunately, it's a tough one to see for them. Now when we come back to OAA Now, we're gonna talk little volleyball. Of course, we got two big, huge tournaments this weekend. Got two big tournaments, of course, the one at Macomb, Dakota, and the one at Lake Orion. We'll talk about that coming up on OAA Now.
Residents of the Orion area are encouraged to safely dispose of toxic chemicals by attending one of several No-Haz events scheduled throughout the year. Orion Township will host an event on Saturday, September 20th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Friendship Park and is free to residents. Drop off computers and electronics, paint, pesticides, cleaners, and batteries. A team of trained volunteers and professionals will be on hand to collect, sort, and package the items for proper disposal or recycling. For more information, visit nohaz.com or call 248-858-5656.
Welcome back to OA Now. I'm Sammy Taormina, the blogger of the Dragons Den, and also on ONTV, and also have a show called Between Taorminas. You can catch it on Monday nights at 6 o'clock on ONTV. Now we're going to talk about girls volleyball coming up. Of course, huge tournament this weekend. Some big powers coming to this one here. It'll be at Macomb, Dakota. I know there's a couple OA teams in this one. You got Birmingham Seaholm, you got Lake Orion, you got and then you got Troy also. You got three OA teams. We're going to talk about what their chances are going to be heading into this Macomb, Dakota tournament. And then, of course, the third segment will be the previewing the Lake Orion tournament, where a couple of these teams we're going to be at heading into the volleyball season. Let's go with the Macomb, Dakota first. Of course, when I look at Pool A, of course, you got top team there is Birmingham Marion. Of course, Birmingham Marion, they got a very good team there. Of course, Angelica Concelzi, I think that's her name, has done last year took over the reins for Ira Gardner, who's now at Rochester Adams. He ended up doing a very good job over there at She ended up doing a very good job over there at Birmingham Marion. She ended up taking her team to the state finals. Of course, that was a huge blessing. Of course, he had a very nice senior class. Now that senior class, though, however, is gone, but they still return a very good player back in Megan Contant, who I think is going to be a huge factor this year in there. And then, of course, when I look at the Pool A in the Dakota side of the tournament, you got Grosse Pointe South. Of course, this is a team, in my opinion, that South's an interesting one to watch because, they're in Macomb County. They're a good team, you know what I mean? They could do some damage, but I don't think they're in the level of Birmingham Marion, And then, of course, the next team here is the Flushing Raiders, of course. This is a team that came from the Saginaw Valley Conference and into the Flint Metro League. Of course, when I looked at their previews earlier today, I looked at the Raiders. Of course, they're projected to be one of the top teams to finish in the Flint Metro League. They were projected to finish number 1 in that league. And of course, the OAA team, of course, in Pool A is the Troy Colts. Of course, the Colts have turned 13 and 14 starters. Troy, this is a tough pool, I think, for Troy, because when you look at it, you're looking at possibly playing Birmingham. You're gonna play Birmingham Marion. You're gonna play Flushing, and of course you're gonna play Grosse Pointe South. I think Birmingham Marion's gonna give Troy a lot of problems in that first one. I just think that I just don't like Troy in that matchup, especially when they play Birmingham Marion or Flushing. When they play Grosse Pointe South, the Blue Devils. I mean, I think Troy can beat them, but in the Pool A, I can see them going into the loser side of the bracket here. I mean, projecting Troy, and then of course, this is a team, in my opinion, they return a lot of talent. I think that Troy, I think this tournament is going to help Troy in the long haul. I just think that with the Colts, it might be a painful process early, but also it might be a part where Troy can come in and basically just think, and just get some confidence from this tournament, because I know you're playing at least 2 very good teams, maybe 3 very good teams, if you look at it. But I just think Flushing will give Troy problems, and I know definitely for sure Birmingham Marion will give them problems in that one. Of course, the next team here we're going to mention, the next pool is Pool B. Of course, you got in that one, there's no OA teams in here, but we'll probably go over that shortly. When I look at them, at that pool, you got Romeo, of course, who's a very good team. They got a lot coming back. They're known for their they got a very good outside hitter. Of course, this is a team Romeo I think is going to do some damage. You know what I mean? I think Romeo could be the next Macomb Dakota when you look at it, especially when you look at what Macomb Dakota had last year with Carla Snyder, of course, going to Florida. I mean, I've been hearing that team that they're that good. I think Romeo's going to be one of that teams. I think they're one of the favorites in the MAC Red this year to compete and do very, very well this year. Of course, the next team, of course, is the Lakeland Eagles. Of course, the Lakeland is of course, school in White Lake. Of course, they're in the Kensington Lakes Athletic Association. I think they'll be all right. The Eagles, they're not a bad team, but they did lose a lot from a year ago. And it could be they could be a very good formidable team this year. I mean, we'll see what happens there. Of course, the next team here is the Plymouth Wildcats. Of course, Plymouth. Of course, many of you, Lake Orion, of course, know from playing Plymouth in football. Of course, that was the team Lake Orion, of course, won the state football title in 2010. They have a nice team there over there at Plymouth, but we'll see what happens there. And of course, the last team on that list for Pool B is the Fraser Ramblers, actually. Fraser, of course, they used to be a revival power. They used to be a power, but now they're struggling a little bit. I can see that where they could struggle a little bit heading into the year. Fraser, they're unique. They're experienced. I mean, this is an interesting team to watch heading into 2014. I mean, they could struggle a little bit in the MAC, but Fraser, this is still a household program, especially with the success they've had in the last few years. Of course, now we go to Pool C. Of course, this is where you got Dearborn Devon Child, Macomb Dakota, the host school, and of course you got Lake Orion. Lake Orion, of course, top team there in Pool C, and of course you got the host Macomb Dakota Cougars. I mean, when I look at the first one we talk about is Dearborn Devon Child. This is a okay team. I mean, this is a very unique team to watch. Devon Child will be all right, especially here. We'll see what happens with them. Of course, got Macomb Dakota. Of course, Tracy Ferguson's team. Of course, she lost a lot of pieces from a year ago. When I look at Macomb Dakota, this is a team I think that's on the wayward down. I think they'll struggle. I'll still struggle in this season, especially in the MAC Red, when you have teams like Romeo, Chippewa Valley, and of course Macomb Dakota, and of course got Lake Orion, of course, last team in Pool C, because you got the Dragons as one of those teams that very unique. Of course, they got some question at setter. Of course, I mentioned that last week when they lost Rachel Gaiwa. I think it's a huge issue right there. I just think when I look at this pool here, I mean, it could be a very interesting pool, especially who goes into the gold bracket. especially I think Lake Orion's favored to come out of Pool C. And, of course, Pool D, of course, very interesting. You got Grosse Pointe North, Chippewa Valley, and Birmingham Seahome. Birmingham Seahome, of course, is the top-ranked team in the Dragon's Den poll for volleyball. I mean, because they got to turn a lot of experience back. They got a lot of good experience back. I think they're going to give people problems than people think. I think a lot of people are underestimating Birmingham Seahome. People here, folks here at the Dragon's Den are not underestimating the Maples at all. They're going to be an interesting team to watch, especially heading into this season. They got a lot of experience back. This is a team, in my opinion, who can do some damage. But if they go in that low early, they could have some issues heading into the year. And, of course, last team on that list is Grosse Pointe North. North is a very unique team. When you look at Grosse Pointe North, they're a good volleyball program. They're good power there. But I just think right now, at the end there, I think it's going to be I still think it's going to be – I'm not sure how Pool C and Pool D is going to head on out because of the fact there's only 3 teams there, and also there's 4 teams in the Pool A and Pool B. But when I look at my projections for the Dakota tournament, I just think that when I look at the teams, I think Birmingham Marion, Romeo, Lake Orion, and Seahome, I think are favored to get out of that tournament. And I just think that when I look at it here, I'm not sold on Grosse Pointe South. I know they're a good team, they're a good program, but I could see Flushing getting out of that pool as well. And then you have in the winners bracket and you have in the losers bracket. So we'll see what happens over there, especially when you look at a team like a Birmingham Marion, who a lot of people know that last season the Mustangs went to the state finals, were getting knocked off, I think, by Granville, East Kentwood, my bad. That beat Birmingham Marion, of course. And then, of course, you got Flushing, of course. They're a good team, coming in from a new conference to a new conference. It's going to be tough. But this is a team I think that could do some damage there. And then, of course, you look at, in Pool B, you got Romeo, who, the Bulldogs, a good team. This is going to be a very good team. I just think that Romeo will be too much for Pool B. I don't know how that bracket's going to work, especially when you have those 4 teams in there. I think Romeo and Lakeland could possibly get out of that one. And, of course, the next 2 teams here I can see getting on Pool C for sure. I think Lake Orion gets out, and I think Macomb Dakota gets out. And then, of course, Pool D, I can see, of course, Birmingham Seahome and Clinton Township Chippewa Valley getting out. And then, of course, who I think's favored to win the Dakota tournament, you got to go with them. Unfortunately, I'm a Dragon guy, I'm a Lake Orion guy, but right now I probably would have to say right now the early favorite would be Birmingham Marion, because this is a team, in my opinion, that could do some damage heading in. I just think that in the end, Birmingham Marion, I think is going to be too much for the field, but I could see challenges from Romeo, Lake Orion, and Birmingham Seahome. Of course, Birmingham Seahome, of course, can probably see Birmingham Marion the most out of those 2 types of teams. So we'll see what happens there, especially coming into the year with them. So we'll see what happens heading into that campaign. All right, when we look at we're gonna also preview the Lake Orion tournament, of course, coming up, which is gonna be very interesting. Also and you look at the Lake Orion tournament, it's a very unique tournament. You got Lake Orion, you got Novi, you got North Branch, of course, you got Clarkson. Of course, I think this is the top teams in that division. Of course, when I was in the meeting room yesterday, I looked at the brackets, and I was curious to see how they were doing, how Coach Tony Scribata he put the teams in there, But I understand where he was coming from here, but when you look at the teams there, it's an interesting tournament because you got Lake Orion, Novi, North Branch, Clarkston, and of course you got Farmington North Mercy in there, Birmingham Seahome's in there, of course you got Macomb Dakota in there, Stony Creek, Adams, Oxford, and you got L'Anse Creuse in there also as well. But when I look at the Lake Orion tournament coming up on Wednesday, which is going to be a very unique tournament, the Dragon's Den will be there. Of course, covering that tournament, we'll probably get some interviews from various coaches. I would like to get, some various coaches around here. We'll probably get some mentions on it in 2 weeks when we do more volleyball coverage here. So the team, I think Lake Orion, very interesting group. Of course, you got Farmington North Mercy in there. In that group, you got Grosse Pointe North, who I think could struggle. And, of course, Holly, you know what I mean? When I looked at the polls of Holly, the Bronchos in the Flint Metro League, this is a team I think that could struggle a little bit when you look at Holly. Of course, they were projected to finish last in the league. This was a team that was supposed to struggle, but Holly could be a very unique team to watch heading into the year. The Bronchos are, they could struggle. You know, they lost a lot of talent from a year ago, and you know it could be tough over there in Holly. Of course, when you look at teams like Novi, of course, Novi is known for their experience. Of course, you got Also, you got could be in there. Could be Birmingham Seahome could be in there, which is I think would be a huge matchup for Novi. I think Birmingham Seahome could give Novi huge problems heading into the year. Heading into that tournament matchup, of course, the third seed, of course, is North Branch. When I look at North Branch, this is a very unique team. They return a lot from Division II. This is a well-coached team. They do a very good job over there at North Branch. It's a tough volleyball team. They're one of the best teams in Class B. There's no doubt. I think North Branch is going to be a very huge player in this Lake Orion tournament. And, of course, I think the most vulnerable number one seed of them all, I think, is Clarkson. Because when you look at the Wolves, yeah, they're talented. But when you look at them, you got Taylor Dillinger back. I mean, they got some questions in the back row. Kelly Admiral, of course, she always does a very good job over there at Clarkston. But I think if you look at probably the most vulnerable of the number ones, I think it's Clarkston heading in that tournament. But you got it. But you can't underestimate the number twos or the threes or the fours because, I can see a team like Mount Morris that can give Clarkson problems. I could see a team like Northville for sure that can give Clarkson problems, especially this year, especially in the Lake Orion tournament, so that's gonna be an interesting tournament. When you look at the field, of course, the team that has me concerned in pool play for sure is Farmington Hills Mercy, the Marlins of all teams. Very good team, of course. I'd name, of course, the Marlins. You know what I mean? No offense, apologies there, but I think Farmington Hills Mercy, they're very talented. They're well coached. This is a good team that they are. And also Farmington Hills Mercy, I think they're going to be a huge player heading into the season, especially in that Catholic League. And I think they'll be a huge player once districts come around. And I know they're in that district with Farmington and Southfield in there. Of course, Detroit schools are not good in there in volleyball. Right? They're not as good in volleyball, but excuse me. But we'll just see what happens there. Of course, in girls volleyball, of course, anything could happen. You know what I mean? It takes 3 games, 25, for you to win a match and to lose a match. If you go 5 games without the 15th. So it's always interesting. It's always entertaining. You know what I mean? For volleyball, of course. When I look at my projections there, I think early on I would probably give a slight edge. I think it's a tough tournament. I think there's a lot of teams that can win this tournament, but when I look at it here, I think Orion's got a shot to win the Lake Orion tournament. I know nobody's got a shot. North Branch has a shot. Clarkson, Farmington Hills Mercy, Northville, Seahome, and Mountain Morris, I think, have the best shots, but don't count out Macomb, Dakota. Stony Creek, Adams, Launch Cruz, and Oxford could struggle heading into this tournament. But you know what? It'll be a good experience for all these teams, especially because when you look at the teams around here, it's hard to get tournaments. It's hard to make sure to make everybody happy. It's sort of like it's like a round robin. You know what I mean? It's how it is. And I think when you look at the tournament at Lake Orion, I think it's a good tournament. A lot of good teams there. It's a tough tournament, but of course the Dragon's Den will be there covering it all getting interviews from players, coaches, and also the very unique tale, of course, of girls volleyball coming up here. It'll be starting on Wednesday, of course, and also Wednesday, of course, freshman JV football actually also starts on that Wednesday as well. You got a lot of teams playing those games and also playing on Thursday night games. That will be for football for next week also as well. But also back to girls volleyball. When I look at this match, when I look at the pool, I think it's a good pool. It's an interesting pool. It's a tough pool. There's no doubt about it. I just think that the key to this play, I think it's going to be their star players. Of course, I know we do know on the OAA Now, we know the star players on each of the teams from the OAA, but also, you got to know what teams are very good in there. Novi, North Branch, Northville, and Mount Morris are going to have huge days. Macomb Dakota, of course, is a team that lost a lot of talent, like I mentioned earlier, and I think they're going to have some issues heading into the year. I think it could be a stressful year, and of course, we all knew last year once Carly Snyder was out from Macomb Dakota, they kind of struggled down the stretch, and and she was not the same player during that district when, of course, when Macomb Dakota last year was upset by Romeo. But we'll see what happens. Okay, now when we come back, we will on OA Now. We're gonna preview some other sports here. Of course, you got cross country. You got soccer coming up. You know what I mean? Soccer I know starts this week, and of course, got swimming coming up here on OA Now.
As the summer begins to wind down, enjoy the transition into fall by loading up the family and taking a trip to Friendship Park for Barn Days on Saturday, September 13th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be plenty of activities for the whole family, including a petting farm, carnival games, inflatables, farm fresh produce, and a wagon ride. But be forewarned, you may encounter some Yankees and rebels who don't know the Civil War is over. The cost is $5 per vehicle, and proceeds help fund Orion Township's concerts and other events throughout the year. For more information, you can call 248-391-0304, extension 305, or visit oriontownship.org.
Welcome to OA Now. I'm Sammy Taormina, blogger for the Dragon's Den, and also one of the hosts of ONTV's Between Taorminas, which is on ONTV on Monday nights at 6 o'clock. We're going to talk about various other sports. First, we're going to go round robin, of course, for you on OA Now. We're going to go cross country first, of course. A lot of people know that in both boys and girls cross country, of course, it was a tough year, but I'm curious to see how all these area runners are going to do. Of course, a lot of those teams known for the powers. You got, in boys, first we're going to go with boys, of course, you got Lake Orion. Of course, they did lose a lot last year, but Coach Stan Ford always rebounds his teams. And also got Birmingham Seaholm, who also is an interesting team heading into the year. I just think that if you look at the red this year, especially in the Jumblies, I think that Adams and Lake Orion are probably going to have a huge say in this, but, you can't count out all the other teams in there. And, of course, in the girls, of course, Seaholm, they did lose a lot of good distance crews from a year ago. And the Maples could struggle heading in to the year, but, Birmingham Seaholm, they always reload. I just think that when you look at cross country, I just think when you look at it this year, I still think, I think when you look at it, I think Lake Orion and Birmingham Seaholm are probably the two teams I think that could do some damage heading into the year, but you can't count out Clarkson's girls or Rochester's girls. Rochester's known for their distance, but also you got Adams, who's an upcoming team as well. But when you look at the girls' side, I think that I think it's Lake Orion, Clarkston, and Birmingham Seaholm. I think are the top three there, but you can't not count out and the boys. You can't also count out Troy, because Troy's a very good team. They'll be an interesting team to watch, especially in cross-country season. And, of course, let's go to soccer now. Of course, soccer, very interesting sport. I'm a little surprised that they don't get a lot of love, especially from the local area. They're going to get some love this year, I think, from of course, our show, OA Now. When I look at soccer, of course, you got Lake Orion is in the lower division now in the white, but also you got some powerhouse programs still in there. You got Stony Creek, you got Adams, you got Rochester, Troy, Athens. I mean, those teams are very, very good in soccer. I mean, like, and then of course you got your South always. When you're down south, you always tend to struggle. I'm kind of surprised this year that West Bloomfield did not do a soccer team this year. It was kind of mind-boggling, especially with the enrollment that they have over there, that they would not be able to field a soccer team. I can understand budget cuts, but still, it's not right for the kids. It's not fair to the kids to see like a sport, you know what I mean, that they love and desire get cut from the budget. And of course, that's a problem that I have when it comes to athletic budgets. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. There, but when I look at the teams there, I think Troy, Athens are going to have some very good teams. Of course, when you look at because you got 3 Rochester schools who are always tough. One of those teams at least is one or two of those teams are probably at least ranked in the state, which is very interesting, very unique, especially heading into the year. When you look at a team like Rochester, of course they've lost a lot, but Adams, of course, they're still going to be good. They reload a lot, but a team I'm curious to see, of course, is in the white. Of course, it's Lake Orion, because the Dragons are they're a young team last year. They struggled. I'm very high on a guy like Sheldon Drake, who's going to have a big year, I think, in soccer. He's got quickness. He's got speed. Connor Sturgis is one of those other guys who I'm very high on as well. I think he's going to have a big year, I think, for Lake Orion. And I think the Dragons could make some noise in the white this year. I mean, especially considering that your district this year, of course, is at Utica Eisenhower, and of course at Swinehart Field, and you got a lot of tough teams in Macomb County there. You got Utica Eisenhower, you got Lake Orion, you got Rochester, Stony Creek, Rochester, Stony Creek, Adams, and also and of course you can't count out the team in the north, which is the Oxford Wildcats. Oxford got a very good player in Connor Bandel, who he's a very good athlete, you know what I mean? He also does basketball. He also does track. He's a shot putter, discus guy. Very good thrower. But it depends what but he did play soccer. Of course, his sister Darian also played soccer, besides volleyball, and also, of course, we all know Darian Bandel now playing volleyball at Oakland University, being a Golden Grizzly. But I think Oxford could have a huge say in this year. Of course, playing games on the blue turf, that's a huge impact there. And then I just think when you look at when you look at soccer, I think that North Oakland County, probably like Northern Oakland County and perhaps Middle Oakland County, are going to be very, very good this year. Of course, we'll see what happens there. Of course, the next sport we're going to talk about is, of course, you got girls swimming. You know what I mean? Swimming's a very interesting sport that nobody then a lot of this, it gets some prep, like some of the favorite teams are, of course, got Bloomfield Hills, who's a very good team there. I mean, they got Birmingham Seaholm, Beverly Hills Willie Groves, who are always swimming powers there. And, of course, you got Lake Orion, who lost a lot last season. I think they're going to be a huge player. I think they'll be a huge factor this year for Darren Abassi and his crew. I just think when you look at when you look at Lake Orion, I just think they're a team that they're a team to watch this year. I mean, they got some athletes. I mean, they got some athletes, especially in diving, and then of course you got them in the races. It's very important in swimming. You know what I mean, to win a couple of those races, especially when it comes to team points, especially when it comes to that that format. And then of course looking at of course Bloomfield Hills, of course they're a team to watch, especially because a couple of years ago, of course, we all know that when Bloomfield Hills was Bloomfield Hills, Gloucester, and Bloomfield Hills Andover, both those teams were very, very good. And then of course they combined both programs, of course, merged into one school. That was a good thing. They kept the same coaching staff there. I mean, I think that was a good thing to do in swimming and diving, especially in both boys and girls. I think it's a huge plus for both to make sure you have that familiarity there. And then you look at Groves and Seaholm. Of course, they're always going to be talented. Of course, those two teams are going to always be there. I think in the very end, I think they're going to be huge factors in the county this year. It would not surprise me if Birmingham Seaholm and Beverly Hills Willie Groves, sorry, my bad, will be huge factors heading into the swim season. Of course, trying to figure out the other sports. Of course, you got not really much into water polo. You know what I mean? Just it's kind of a new sport to me. It's water polo, but be curious to see who teams have water polo teams. You know what I mean? Especially heading into the year. But of course, as we know, of course, some of the big games coming up. Of course, some soccer kicks off this weekend. I know a couple of interesting matches there. I know Lake Orion kicks off the year at Holly against the Bronchos, who of course Holly is a grass field. Of course, we all know that. I don't know if they've installed turf yet or anything, but I know Holly, I know for sure is a grass field. But we'll see what happens. Of course, soccer getting kicked off into the year. They play a lot of. I'm a little surprised with their league schedule, considering they play a lot of like league games early on into the year, and then they play non-league games later into the year. I don't understand it at all when it comes to that concept, because of the fact that if you want to play your league games now, you got to play them early in the year. I think that when you look at a team like Birmingham, like those teams, I think that it's important to play your league probably later on, because it gets you ready for district play, especially tournament play. I can understand the tournament concept, but once it starts getting colder, you know what I mean? You got to make sure and see what teams are going to be there and what teams are not going to be there. And I think playing a league schedule probably later in the year would benefit these teams instead of playing early, because I just think personally is that if you play a league schedule early in the year, you're kind of just like saying, I want to get up for them, I want to play them, you know what I mean? And then like later in the year, I just tank them, you know what I mean? Because you're playing some teams that are not inferior to you, you know what I mean? But there's some teams, unfortunately, like West Bloomfield, who decided not to have a soccer team this year. It's kind of disappointing, unfortunately, but it is what it is. There's a lot of soccer teams around here. Schools in the OA, I know for sure, that don't have soccer teams, and it's unfortunate because of budget problems. And I just think it's a terrible, unfortunate thing. It takes away an athletic sport. It takes away, sports is part of education. You know what I mean? It is, because you got to look at sports, and sports is a very, very it's a privilege to have. It's a privilege to enjoy, and to see sports get taken away, I think it's a terrible thing to notice. And also, when you look at the league, I just think that, if you keep the athletic programs intact, I think people you're gonna be better off in the long haul. And then of course, it all kicks off. Of course, next week, of course, you got football week 1, some good matchups coming up, which is going to be a very interesting week 1. When I look at the schedule, a couple games that do have me in mind. Of course, when it comes to football, of course, you got in the red, you got Lake Orion, Chippewa Valley, Clarkson, Macomb, Dakota, Oxford, Romeo, Troy, Sterling Heights, Stevenson, Stony Creek, Adams, Troy, Athens, Macomb, Las Cruz North, Bloomfield Hills, Walled Lake Northern, of course. But everything kicks off, of course, in the red with West Bloomfield and Dearborn at Wayne State, and that is the first ever game of the 2014 season for the MHSAA, and that's something that I'll be looking forward to heading into that one at Wayne State. And of course, the white, you got Oak Park, Detroit, Cass Tech, Southfield, Orchard Lake, St. Mary's, Harrison versus Farmington, Rochester, and Stony Creek. Another match I'm interested about is Rochester, Lapeer, North Farmington, and Pontiac, of course, Royal Oak and Ford, Utica Ford, and Birmingham Seaholm versus Beverly Hills, Willie Grove. So I think that's going to be an interesting campaign of some very, very good, entertaining games coming up for week 1. And also, last and not least in the blue, you got Pontiac, North Farmington, Harrison, Avondale, Redford Union. Of course, you got Groves and Seaholm, Ferndale, Livonia, Clarenceville, Berkeley, Holly, Southfield, Lathrop, Detroit, Southeastern, and Hazel Park and Warren Fitzgerald. Of course, I'll let you know my projections on those games, but a lot of intriguing games coming up for football starting, of course. But you also got to look at the freshman and JV teams, of course. One thing I'm curious to see is, will Bloomfield Hills have a junior varsity team? Last year they did not have a JV team, and that was unfortunate, especially considering that you just merged with the schools. And it's something that bothers me, especially because it bothers athletic directors, other athletic directors. But I just think when you look at it here, I think it's important to have a freshman team, a junior varsity team, and a varsity team. Now, I understand, and especially in other sports like basketball, it's kind of tough to have a freshman team. Some of the teams, especially down south, don't have freshman teams. Like, I know Birmingham Seaholm was for one. I was very surprised last year Rochester didn't have a junior varsity team in girls basketball. And also same thing with, of course, some of the other schools, But I'm curious to see this year that, I'm hoping that it gives the players an opportunity to play, even if they're not very good. You just got to give the kids an opportunity to play and to show what they have and what skills that they have. You know what I mean? It's something that it's kind of hard, especially, if everybody doesn't want to play a sport, you know what I mean? But I think sports gives them an extracurricular activity. It keeps them out of trouble. It keeps them, active, in the community. It's not about the scholarships, It's not about Division I scholarships. It's about having fun, playing with your friends, your teammates, And it can be winning a championship, you don't know how much privilege, how much playing a sport is a privilege. So it's important to stay focused, not only in the athletic fields or athletic areas, but also in the classroom for students. I think that students have got to stay active in the classroom. I know these kids do a magnificent job in the classroom, and also they have a lot of opportunity to be successful in not only sports. You won't get a Division I scholarship. There'll be a certain few that do, but it's also there's a little game here called life. And that's something that I'm hoping that my viewers, everybody here, enjoys the views of course, getting an opportunity to play, especially in an OAA school, not only in OAA school, but also in the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Of course, it's unfortunate to see a lot of these people leave to go somewhere else, But you got some great talent here in Michigan. There's no doubt about it. It's just, we'll just see what happens. You know what I mean? But you just got to put everything, and I know all these kids and all these students, and also, of course, coaches also, they put the hard work in every single day, and that's something that we all have to be appreciated, not only in media, but also in life as well. This and sports is a privilege, it's and it is, and it truly is, and I'm very happy, very proud to say, especially as we head into the beginning of fall sports, of course, as I'm a proud member, of the OAA, and also the, of course, we'll give you guys all the best coverage we can give you heading into the season, and when we get into the year, of course, it's going to be fun. A lot of people are going to be looking forward to this. Of course, we'll have some guests here soon. Curious to see what people think, especially heading into next week, because next week we're going to be talking my projections for the games. And it's a loaded slate. Week one is always crazy, but I can give you a couple early games, from non-leagues, I can give you them right now, so it'll give you a good idea where I think we'll go. Week one, of course, I know there was one game, of course, huge one between Novi Detroit Catholic Central, Muskegon. I like Muskegon that one. A couple other games I'm curious to see is, of course, there's some others, Of course, the Battle of Brother Rice is between the Michigan Brother Rice, Birmingham Brother Rice, and Chicago Brother Rice. I'm going to go with the Michigan Birmingham Brother Rice. In that one, I think home field's going to be a huge advantage there for them. And then, of course, there's some other games I'll mention. If you want to, you can send them here on the you can send them on my Twitter feed. Of course, my Twitter feed is hashtag. Of course, I'm at Saginaw Bay. For my Twitter, you can see it. You can see it right now. Any games you want me to do, just let me know and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay. Anyway, this is gonna wrap up today's OAA Now broadcast. Of course, we all know stay tuned. We'll keep an update on the couple situations. Of course, heading into the year. Everybody stay safe out there. It's gonna rain soon. It's gonna storm soon. Just stay safe, and we'll go from there. And stay safe and stay healthy. And also enjoy your day, enjoy your nights here on OAA Now.
OAA Now is produced at Orion Neighborhood Television, Lake Orion's community media outlet. To learn more about ONTV, visit our website at www.orionontv.org or call us at 248-393-1060.